Happy New Year and welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. With the new year upon us, there's lots to think about. Some of that is what's happening in the outside world, but a lot of it is what's happening internally in your amazing mind. Today we'll talk about focusing forward and staying positive in a negative world on the Real Estate Guys radio program.
If you love real estate and have always wanted to own your own business, listen up. The Real Estate Guys and their panel of experts want to teach you how to go full-time fast in the real estate syndication business. These next few years may go down in history as one of the best times ever to acquire investment real estate. There are deals everywhere if you know where to look and how to assemble the resources. The Secrets of Successful Syndication seminar will show you how to make big money doing big deals from a team of experts that have syndicated projects totaling more than $1 billion. Don't wait for someone to give you a raise or create a job for you. Attend the Secrets of Successful Syndication and learn how to build a team, raise capital, find deals, and make full-time money in 6 months or less. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events. All the big players use syndication as a way to diversify risk, optimize profits, and earn big money. You can too. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events.
Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms, and in the co-host seat, our financial strategist, Russell Gray.
Hey, Robert.
This is our favorite time of year, whether you're listening at the very end of 2023 or the very beginning of 2024. We have a new year upon us, and so much is going on. We're now in our 28th year of broadcasting on the radio. When we started the show, we thought, if you think of all the things there are to talk about in real estate, probably 2 years and we'll be done, and that'll be the end of the show. And here we are 28 years later, and it's because nothing stays the same. Things change. On this show, we like to talk about the things that are front and center in the economy that are changing. Sometimes people accuse us of being negative or doom and gloomy. Quite the opposite is true. We are dyed-in-the-wool optimists. We say that opportunities are for optimists, otherwise we call them pesitunities. And so at the beginning of a year, we like to practice something called zero-based thinking. Knowing what I now know, what would I do differently? And you have this chance to do differently. But remember that while you're thinking about that, the world is also moving along. We've got wars and strife and division and inflation and high interest rates and all the things you hear about in the news cycle every single day. And for some folks, it's hard to stay positive in a negative world. I would say that it's a positive world and it's filled with all kinds of hope and opportunity. 2024 could very well be your best year yet if you know what to do.
Yeah, if you think about it, if you live a little bit longer, and after being on the show for 28 years, that's a little bit longer. Some people out there listening haven't even been alive as long as we've been doing the show, which just is mind-boggling to me. But I like to think back to the life cycle of my grandparents and maybe even my great-grandparents and the things that they've seen, and all of the times that people had more than enough reason to give up, to believe this was the end, to believe that everything that could be done was done, that everything that could be learned was learned, that everything was ruined beyond repair, that somehow no effort today was worth it. Just live for the moment and hope that you just don't end up in abject poverty or destitution before the game runs out. And of course, that's no way to approach life. The fact of the matter is the flip side of problem is opportunity. And if you look back in history, a lot of the best opportunities grew out of problems. Certainly the best education has. And so even if it's a particularly tough time you're going through, or that the society is going through, you might be doing fine, but you look at the world and you go, gosh, I'm doing okay, but the world is just going crazy and I'm worried about my kids or my grandkids or my friends or the next generation or whatever it is that has you concerned. The reality is that everything is ever present. And so it's like when you get in a car to go out and take a trip. You know that along the way, you're probably going to meet some stop signs. There's a chance there may be an accident. You always have in the back of your mind the idea that something bad could happen. But the reality is most of the time it doesn't. Most of the time you can successfully navigate it. Most of the time the people out there are responsible, doing the right things. And it's only every once in a while that something bad happens, and that's just called life. Well, the same is true with your investing, your portfolio, and your business ventures. So it's really not so much about what's going on. It's about what's going on inside your head. And so today, I think the smart thing for us to do to talk about as we're looking at 2024, either, as you said, Robert, at the end of the year or at the beginning of the year, wherever you're at listening to this, or wherever you're at, because let's face it, today, whatever day today is the first day of the rest of your life. So if you just look at it that way, it's really how do you have your head screwed on? What are you focused on? And then how are you going to be able to take effective action in spite of the uncertainty that is always going to be out there in front of you?
A life well lived is a life where you're continuing to refine who you are and what you're doing. And we would hope that most people would look at their past and say, wow, I've got some awesome things that have happened, but there's some things I'd like to change. You know, one of those things, the beginning of the year, a lot of people join a gym. More gym memberships start in January than any other month of the year. And it's like that every year because people are starting and they're, all right, I want to get in shape. And a funny thing happens. The gym is busy the first couple of weeks of the new year, as are all the weight loss centers, all busy at the first couple of weeks of the new year. And then slowly but surely, people stop showing up. It's not that the methodology of getting in better shape or losing or gaining weight, depending on what you're trying to do through diet, changes. It's human nature.
Well, I think it goes back to this notion that it's not about information. It's really about action, and action comes out of transformation. You have to become different. You know, it was one time I had this idea I was going to write a book called Think Like a Loser for people who are overweight. And you start with how you think. It's your relationship with food. It's your relationship with exercise. You know, people draw comfort when you're a little child, and every time you cry, somebody sticks something in your mouth, and you're trained to get comfort from food. So the list goes on. And you have to really reprogram your training and say, well, what training do I have? What habits do I have in my mindset that serve me and which ones don't? Yeah, just sticking with this whole fitness idea, Robert, at the beginning of the year, I think anybody would ever tell you your best chance of succeeding about going to the gym is to find a workout partner. And the reason that's true is because when you do something with somebody else, when you make a commitment to somebody else, when you're part of a community, you're part of a tribe, the momentum of the commitment and the relationship pulls you along. If it's good to have one person that you're going to be committed to and go to a gym with, what if you had 5 or 6? What if there was a whole group of you and it became social? It became fun. It became part of your experience in engaging with the community. And so I really think that that's, for investors, going to be really important because we're going into a pretty hot, volatile, controversial election cycle. I mean, let's just face it. And it doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on or what you think should happen or how the world should work. There's just going to be a lot of name-calling, mudslinging, a lot of the economy's terrible and the government's terrible and everything's wrong and everything's too expensive or too whatever it is, right? That's all going to be going on. It's gone on before. It's going to go on again. And so when you have all that external stuff coming in, you know, your internal filter has got to clean it out, just like a liver. You know, if you came through the holidays and you decided to imbibe a little bit, right, your body has to filter out some of those toxins you consciously made a decision to allow into your life. If you live like that 24/7, 365, you're going to die early. And so the same thing can happen if you listen to too much of the concerns. You got to listen to enough of it. What's wrong in the world so you can see where the risks are. You don't ignore the bridge out sign when you're driving, right? You look at it and you're like, oh, the bridge is out. You don't take it personally. You don't say, oh my God, it's the end of the world because a bridge is out. It's like, I just have to find another route because a bridge is out. I think there's just going to be some of that in 2024, and we don't want to ignore it. We just don't want to let it dominate our thinking.
You know, every year there are headwinds and there are tailwinds. Some years there's a lot more headwinds and some years there's a lot more tailwinds. And to your point, Russ, when it's an election year, it just gets louder and it gets more emotional and people tend to react to that. Our mission is always to look as far ahead as we can see to get clues about where the economy is going. What are people thinking? What's happening in real estate markets? What are the changes in the needs for real estate users and tenants and all of that, so that we can be on the right end of opportunity. And right now, one of our big headwinds has been interest rates. Okay, well, we're starting to see that come down a little. Now, there's a whole host of folks, we talked about this last week, that are expecting rates to go way down. And then there's a whole host of folks that are saying, it's not going to go way down. We're going to see these kinds of rates for a long, long time. So the reality is nobody knows for sure. There is no crystal ball when it comes to interest rates. As we like to say, experts predict that interest rates will either rise or decline in the future. We don't know. But what we do is try to get as much advanced notice of something like what's going on with the factors that influence interest rates so that we can make smart decisions about financing and refinancing. It's like that with everything. We've seen a lot of asset inflation. The stock market is up. Gold is up. Cryptocurrency is up. So on one hand, there are these tailwinds that say, hey, the markets have been good, and there's a lot of pundits out there saying that's going to continue. And then the other side of the coin is, wait a minute, it's gone up and up and up, so what goes up must come down, and it's going to be awful and terrible. It's the worst crash we've ever seen. Now, I will tell you, as optimists, we have, I think, done a good job of surrounding ourselves with some pessimists. The reason we love to hang out with folks like, and no offense to these folks, but Robert Kiyosaki, Harry Dent, Peter Schiff, is they have us considering the other side of the coin. And I think now, maybe more than ever, a new year and an election year, we need to make sure that what we're listening to, what we're focusing on, is balanced. We're not in an echo chamber of the sky is falling, and we're not in an echo chamber of everything's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, if you're, again, using the bridge analogy, you're driving down the road, guy says the bridge is out. You're like, I don't want to hear that. That's negative. It's going to take me longer to get to my destination. And you're on your way to the ball game, and the ball game's going to start. And your friends are like, hey, I don't want the bridge to be out. Well, I don't want the bridge to be out either. Well, let's just ignore that then and pretend that the bridge isn't out and be optimists. Let's just think positive. And then you drive right off the cliff, right? So it doesn't make sense to be blindly optimistic or to, again, to your point, Robert, to be in an echo chamber. So I think one of the things, to get down to brass tacks, as you're looking out to the new year and doing an assessment about where you came from and what you have to work with, it's not just a financial thing. In fact, I'd argue that that's probably the least important. What's most important is your education, your mindset, and your relationships. And when you think about the relationships that you have, the people that you hang out with, assess them based on their bent. Are they optimistic? Are they pessimistic? And is their pessimism or their optimism based on habit, or is it based on fact? Are the things that they base their position on true? Can you verify it? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What if they're right? What if you're right? What if they're wrong? What if you're wrong? And you have contingency plans. I expect this to go a certain way, but if it doesn't and goes the other way, I know what I'm going to do. In building code, typically you have to have a back door. You don't just get one entrance and exit. You've got to be able to have a back door because of safety reasons. Well, it's the same thing with your investing. Don't get into a deal unless you have an idea about how you're going to get out, and more than one exit would be probably better. And same is true with your business relationships, So it's just important that we take common sense lessons from everyday life and apply them to the decisions we need to make as business people and as investors.
We're talking about focusing forward. A brand new year is here, and it's time to make it your best year yet. We've got lots of thoughts to share today on the Real Estate Guys radio program.
Need help with your real estate investment portfolio? Check out the resources page at realestateguysradio.com.
Are you achieving everything you want in life? What if there was a time-tested way for you to get everything you've ever dreamed of? The most successful people in life set goals and keep themselves accountable. But how? The good news is that it's not rocket science. You too can learn the skills and unleash the motivation that will create success in your life. Hi, this is Robert Helms, and I'd like to personally invite you to attend Create Your Future, the 2024 Goals Retreat January 12th to 14th in Dallas, Texas. This unique weekend event has been called phenomenal, inspirational, and life-changing by the thousands of people that have attended. Hear from some of them and find out more at goalsretreat.com. Get your life back on track, physically, spiritually, and financially. Attend the 2024 Goals Retreat on the second weekend of the new year. Visit goalsretreat.com to learn more and get on the advance notice list. This is no dress rehearsal. Live the life you were meant to. Visit goalsretreat.com or call 888-489-7723 extension 18. That's goalsretreat.com.
With everything going on in the world, don't let your lack of financial understanding derail your investments. Real estate investors need to see the bigger economic picture. The Federal Reserve, bonds and interest rates, precious metals, oil and gas, cryptocurrency, and the inner workings of monetary policy, just to start. If you're at all confused about how and why market metrics intersect and what it means to you as a real estate investor, take your understanding to a new level with the Future of Money and Wealth video collection. Discover the opportunity to hedge against inflation, deflation, and stagflation. Gain critical insights on real estate niches that perform well in challenging times, and learn specific strategies to fortify your balance sheet before it's too late. Simply send an email to future@realestateguysradio.com for all the details. The Future of Money and Wealth includes 20 videos of powerful presentations and panel discussions featuring Robert Kiyosaki, Peter Schiff, G. Edward Griffin, Dr. Doug Duncan, Simon Black, CPA Tom Wheelwright, Brian London, Dr. Chris Martinson, and many more. Email future@realestateguysradio.com today.
Hi, this is Garrett Sutton, Rich Dad's advisor. Remember, equity happens, and you're listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program, heard every weekend on this great radio station all the time at realestateguysradio.com. Happy New Year, or almost Happy New Year. We've got 2024 ahead of us, and it's going to be like a roller coaster. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, there's going to be precarious turns, it's going to get scary, we're going to have to hold our breath, we may even scream. But if you go to the amusement park, there is always a longer line at the roller coaster than there is at the merry-go-round. And so when times are like this, rather than put our heads in the sand and say, woe is me, back to the bridges out analogy, I could just park my car next to the sign and wait for them to fix the bridge. But that's not going to get me very far. Instead, you might instantly think, well, the bridge is out. Okay, let's map a separate, how else could we get there? Let's backtrack. Start thinking about all of the possible solutions to the problem. And this is one of the mindsets I've had for a long, long time. In fact, in our early company, we had the title of Solutionist for everybody that worked with us. No matter what you did in the company, your title was Solutionist. Not even problem solver. We get paid to solve problems, but taking the angle of, I'm a solutionist. My job is to take all of the things that are going good, bad, or otherwise, and to come up with, construct some solutions. And this can be a great year for you to become a solutionist.
It's important to understand psychology and to keep yourself in a resourceful state. A state of mind where you believe that there's an answer and you will find it. Jim Stockdale, who was described in Jim Collins' great book, Good to Great, and the Stockdale Paradox, he was a war POW. And in that situation, which was dire, he had very little control over his external circumstances, but he had control over his own attitude and outlook. And in his situation, he did not ignore or deny the reality of the situation he was in. He confronted the brutal facts, as the way Jim Collins describes it. However, he had a deep-seated belief that he would find a way out, that he would find the answer, that it would be good. And he maintained that mental state. And I've learned in my life, when I hit the panic button, when I start to think, oh my gosh, I'm trapped, I don't know what to do, the world is collapsing in on me, I immediately, instead of looking for the answer, I work on my mental outlook. I work on my state. And then I put myself in a resourceful state. And as Tony Robbins famously says, you don't lack resources, you lack resourcefulness. And Tony Robbins is a guy that I first learned of the concept of state and state of mind and attitude. And it may sound a little airy-fairy for some of you engineers out there. I get it. I'm left-brained. I like spreadsheets. I like logic. But the reality is that we're human beings and we have a left and a right brain. We have emotions and we have logic. And to be truly powerful, you do have to tap into your emotions, and your emotions can run you right off the gutter. They can run you right off the road because you can freak out. They call it paralysis of analysis, deer in the headlights, fight or flight. You may lash out in one way or another or withdraw. And the point is as you approach 2024, go back and look at yourself in 2023 and say, hey, when I was confronted with difficult situations, did I panic? Did I get confused? Did I have people I could reach out to who gave me good input? Or did people just sit in my puddle of self-pity and commiserate with me, right? Who do I need in my life? And again, it may sound simplistic, but I do think it's going to be a volatile year in 2024. It's going to be more of a roller coaster than a merry-go-round. The merry-go-round days will probably come because they do. They're cycles. But I think 2024, the consensus is from a lot of the people we hang out with, it's going to be a little bit of a wild ride. So, strap on and get ready and have fun with it because it's going to happen whether you want it to or not, probably. And if it doesn't, you're ready, no big deal. But if it does and you're mentally ready, you actually will attract a following. I think people will gravitate towards you and you'll be able to get things done because people will be looking for that can-do, positive leadership. And again, we just want to make a distinction between positive, can-do, and Pollyanna. You want to make sure that you're looking at things. So always think about that Stockdale paradox and ask yourself, how can I confront the brutal facts, but also do it with the belief, deep-seated belief, that I will absolutely positively find a way to overcome. There is a path, and I will find it.
Most people are generally optimistic in their lives and pessimistic when it comes to the news. So what can you actually do? Well, it's not turn off the news. In fact, I know, Russ, you spend a lot of time reading the mainstream media headlines because it gives you insight into what people are paying attention to. And I think as real estate investors, Russ, you mentioned being prepared. How are you prepared? Well, you're prepared by looking forward. So make sure you stay plugged in. You're listening to podcasts. You're going to events. You're getting in discussion groups with folks. You are plugged in. You're not just ignoring this stuff. On the other hand, you can't spend all of your time just looking at the headlines and reacting to what people are saying. You've got to form an investment thesis. And so a big part of becoming a real estate investor is recognizing your own internal why. What drives you to be an investor? Big picture is this. If you believe that real estate will be worth more in 20 years than it is today, and if you believe that tenants will need clean, safe, affordable housing, and that they'll be willing to pay for it and have the means to do so, and if you believe that tenants can pay off your mortgage and you don't have to, then your mission is to own more real estate 20 years from now than you do today. And if that were true, if you just say, I think I'd like to own more real estate in 20 years, well, then you just need a plan to do that. And some of that plan is going to be dependent on what the market gives us. Interest rates, availability, house appreciation, all those things. Certainly rents and migration and where the jobs are going. And so we pay attention to that stuff. But part of it is also going to be on you. Are you disciplined to set aside capital to invest? Are you disciplined enough to pay attention to the markets that you're interested in? Are you committed to reading and learning and studying? Because these are the skills that allow you not to get blown off course when the emotional winds come.
Yeah, I think that's where your advisory board is really helpful, your mastermind group, whatever group of people you're a part of that are all actively working on solving the same problems you are, paying attention to the same things you are, dealing with the same outward situations that you are. And a lot of times, of course, we talk about syndication all the time, people you can do some business with, you can actually partner up and actually do bigger deals with. It's less competitive when you're move up a little bit. You're going to read, I think, a lot about some syndicators out there that used structures that were really geared for sunshine and didn't see to your point, Robert, some of the storm clouds forming. It was like all bullish all the time. And that all sounds great when you're at a seminar. That all sounds great when you're trying to pitch a deal and get people to put their money in. But then when the storm actually hits and your structure cannot withstand, the building is going to be there. The tenants are going to be there. The income is going to be there. Where most people mess up is in the financing. They lose control of the property before that 10 years or 20 years can pass. Well, I know with our friend Kenny McElroy, great real estate investor, when he started seeing the interest rates move, when everybody said, hey, they can't raise the interest rates. If they raise the interest rates, it's going to blow everything up. And all of a sudden they start raising the interest rates, not just a little, but a lot relative to the percentage of change. It doesn't seem like 5% is a big deal, but when you started at 0.25, that's 20x. They raised the interest expense 20 times. It's the most aggressive interest rate increase in history. And so that is going to do some damage. And so Kenny saw that and said, hey, I got a choice. I can take a wait and see, park my car next to the bridge, is outside, and hope somebody fixes it, or I can be proactive, confront the brutal facts. Well, we've had Kenny on the show, but this is where it becomes practical. Kenny looks at it and he says, well, if rates were to go up further from here, then I would be happy having today's high rates, even though they're higher than what I'm in at now. And the value of my properties has dropped as a result of the high rate. So if I were to try to do a refinance, I'm going to have to bring cash to the table. But if I bring cash to the table and lock in rates for a longer period of time, I know based on today's cash flows, I can still control the property. It won't be as profitable in the short term, but I'll be in the game 5 years from now. And he did those things. The people who didn't do those things, who had the shorter term, who was hoping the interest rates would come back down, who were hoping that the interest rates wouldn't go up further, who were hoping that the fairy godmother of real estate investing would come down and sprinkle fairy dust on their deal and save it, or that they would be able to just raise more cash from their investors. Those guys are on the front page of newspapers losing their deals. And the warning signs were there. And this is where I go back to what I learned in 2008. And I talk about this all the time because I think some of the greatest lessons in my career came through 2008, even though they were painful. And that was just watching Kenny make a fortune while I was losing, because he was reacting to what was happening and was willing to accept the negativity that people were beginning to talk about in 2006, 2007, 2008, whereas I was just wanting to believe that it wasn't going to happen and somehow it would all work out. Well, hope is not a strategy. I've learned as a strategist, hope is not a strategy. You got to confront the brutal facts. You got to do what needs to be done. And I don't think that all the bloodletting is over yet. So you're going to hear that. You're going to hear that on this show. You're going to hear that out in the news. Don't tune it out, but just go back to that resourceful state and say, okay, how can I take this information and what can I do? And what are other successful investors that I know have had success doing? And then how might I apply that to my situation?
Some people are addicted to hopium, it seems. And although it's good to hope and it's good to be ready if things go well, you also have to watch the other side. And to watch Kenny proactively increase his interest rates and have to bring cash to the table, that's just like, wow. And in hindsight, he looks brilliant. And part of that's because he is brilliant, but also he was paying attention. And when you pay attention, you can be earlier to the game. It's one of our favorite things about being involved in masterminds and being with smart people is that we're just a little bit more ahead of the game. You don't have to be way ahead. It's like the whole, running for the doors, when there's an issue, the sooner, the better. You don't want to wait and be the last person out. And I think there's an opportunity today to be proactively looking at your portfolio, the way it's structured, the financing, all that. Now, one caveat about that, understand that Kenny deals in commercial mortgages. So those generally are loans that aren't as easy to refi as they may otherwise be. And sometimes there are very, very high, what we'll call prepayment penalties. They're called different terms in the commercial world, but the idea that you can't just go in and refinance a property anytime. He was looking strategically at when these loans were coming due and what was likely going to happen in terms of the future interest rates and getting himself ready to weather a storm. And I think the storm analogy is a great one. Robert F. Kennedy famously said, the time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining. So if things are going pretty well in your life, in your economic life and so forth, well, now's the time to repair the roof. Start thinking about how you can be proactive and not reactive.
You know, it's funny, you were talking about just being a little bit ahead and how important it is to be ahead. It reminded me of the old joke, you know, two guys the bear comes out and the bear starts chasing them and they start running. And the guy's, there's no way you can outrun the bear. It's like, I don't have to outrun the bear. I just got to outrun you.
We're talking today about our new year and focusing forward. How can we stay positive in a mostly negative world? We've got more thoughts to share next, and we'll play real estate trivia. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Live nationwide, you're listening to the Real Estate Guys. Find out more at realestateguysradio.com.
When it comes to successful rental property investing, it pays to be picky. Pick the right markets, pick profitable properties, and pick great property management. That's easier said than done, but we've got great news. Terry Kerr and his rockstar team at Mid-South Homebuyers are going strong in Memphis, Tennessee, and Little Rock, Arkansas, too. So for a top-notch turnkey single-family home rental property, whether you're a new investor or have a large portfolio already, pick Terry Kerr and Mid-South for a truly A-plus investing experience. To learn more, send an email to midsouth@realestateguysradio.com. That's midsouth@realestateguysradio.com. Hey, it's Robert Helms. Thanks so much for listening to the show today. I want to personally invite you to come see an amazing real estate market that combines excellent cash flow, offshore diversification, and what we affectionately call lifestyle investing. Come join me in the beautiful country of Belize. The Real Estate Guys have been bringing investors to Belize for more than 19 years now, and our discovery trip is designed to show you the market like nobody else can. Sure, Belize is breathtakingly beautiful, the people are wonderful, and wait till you taste the food. But the real opportunity is the real estate investment potential. How so? Well, that's what you have to come see. There's all types of opportunity in Belize when it comes to real estate investing, including both long and short-term rentals, commercial and retail triple net properties, business opportunities, land acquisition, development, agriculture, and lots more. And as the only country in Latin America with English as its official language, it's easy to understand the law. Property rights are strong, and contracts are in English. And in Ambergris Caye, the top tourist market, a unique situation exists where demand for rentals continues to outstrip supply, creating a compelling environment for investors. So come see for yourself. Join me in Ambergris Caye, Belize as we study the market, learn about the sustainable drivers, and tour lots of beautiful real estate. And like all of our field trips, there are no properties for sale during the weekend. Rather, you'll meet lots of local providers that will help educate you about the market so that you can follow up with them after the trip if the market is interesting to you. You've heard about Belize and the Real Estate Guys for all these years. Now come see what all the excitement is about. Plus, we'll have lots of time over meals and activities to talk about all things real estate. To get the details, go to the website at realestateguysradio.com and click on Events, where you'll find the Belize Discovery Trip. Once you register, you'll get information about our group hotel rates as well as travel details. So join me in Belize. It's a beautiful country with lots of amazing possibilities. And the only thing missing is you. Go to realestateguysradio.com under Events, and I look forward to seeing you in beautiful Belize.
Hi, everyone. This is Jim Rickers, the author of The New Case for Gold, and you're listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks for tuning into the show, and Happy New Year. There's still time to join us for the 2024 Goals Retreat in Dallas, Texas. It's called Create Your Future, and it takes place January 12th, 13th, and 14th. If you lack direction, creativity, clarity, or motivation, get all the details at goalsretreat.com and come join us for a powerful weekend. That's goalsretreat.com. We're talking about focusing forward in a brand new year and all the things you can do to set yourself apart. Got some more ideas for you, but before we do that, it's time to play Real Estate Trivia, your chance to win a prize by knowing today's Real Estate Trivia question. As soon as you hear the question and think you know the answer, send your best guess to trivia@realestateguysradio.com. trivia@realestateguysradio.com. The first person that gets it right gets an awesome book by Stephen Pressfield called The Warrior Ethos. Great book to be reading at the beginning of a new year. Last week on the show, we were talking about the single-family home market. We had Seth Bacom and Logan Rogers with us. We asked you this: The animals with the densest fur of any land mammal in the world are native to the Andes Mountains in South America. What are they? Well, the answer is chinchillas. Oh, they're so cute and cuddly. Yeah, at least they look that way. Here's our real estate trivia question for this week. The most expensive retail rent market in the world hovers around $2,000 per square foot per year. Where is it? Yeah, I mean, some places retail rents are $20 a year per square foot. $2,000? That's a bunch. Where is the most expensive retail rent market in the world? If you think you know, or you just like to shop there, send your best guess to trivia@realestateguysradio.com, trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Give us your name, the answer to the question, and your physical mailing address. The first person that gets it right gets this killer book, The Warrior Ethos by Stephen Pressfield. That's today's real estate trivia question. What does the new year hold? There's a big question for you, and a lot of it's going to have to do with you and the decisions you make, your focus. What are your goals? What do you want to achieve? There's a blank slate ahead of you, and it's an exciting time for that reason. And we want to use what's happening in the news, those headwinds and tailwinds, to our advantage. We don't want to ignore the signs, but we also don't want to be the person that's focused on all the negativity so much that we create inactivity. It's that paralysis of analysis, and sometimes paralysis is the result of fear. If I'm scared, I don't know what to do. We often say that think and do is better than wait and see. I think that's exactly what happened in the story you told about Ken, Russ, is that Kenny didn't wait and see. He thought, and he took action.
Well, and I think the other thing is you get to a point where you have to learn to trust your own judgment. At the end of the day, you have to live with every decision. And when you're first getting started or you're doing something you've never done before, you don't trust your own judgment. You don't have experience to fall back on. You're not sure you're really seeing everything. It's especially difficult to be a contrarian when everybody in your crowd is saying risk on, and you're thinking, I think I want to take my foot off the gas and restructure and prepare for the storm, or vice versa, where you're risk on and everybody around you is, hey, it's the end of the world, But at the end of the day, you have to trust your judgment. Well, how do you learn to trust your judgment? Well, you learn by doing. I think one of the most important things I've learned in life is that you learn and grow by doing. And doing to the point where you're strained, where you're at the edge of your ability. We talk about comfort zones. You hear it all the time. You have your comfort zone where you're doing something you know how to do, high level of competence, very predictable result. You're very, very confident. The problem is that you will never develop new skills or grow stronger unless you push the limits of your ability. And there's a little line outside that comfort zone called resistance. And you got to push through the resistance and get into that uncomfortable zone. When you're out there, you need to make sure that you're operating within a scope of if you fail or when you fail, because that's part of testing your limits, it's not fatal. And this is where your advisory board can help you understand what the limits of your ability is. Just think about your development as a child. When you're a child, you're there under the watchful eye of your parents, and you toddle around and you get into things you shouldn't get into. And they watch you and they let you go a little bit. And then when you're about to do something like walk into the street or walk off a bridge or fall in the swimming pool, they come and they pull you back. They save you from the fatal error, but they let you explore. When you become a grown-up, an adult, you don't have that parent, so to speak, doing that. You have to kind of become your own parent and give yourself permission to explore, and then put people in your life who can help you. And I think one of the things that I wish I would have done earlier in life, and I feel like I had some good mentors along the way, but it was haphazard. I just happened to get into these relationships. I naturally, instinctively gravitated, but I didn't have a thoughtful, specific strategy. I didn't really pick these people on purpose. I just, happened to be someplace and they came into my life. And so in some ways I was very fortunate. But I do think if you're a younger person or, what I say, starting out or starting over, whether you're young or old, if you want to go to whatever the next level is, think about the things in your life where you want to grow, where you want to stretch, and how you can put people in your life that have been there, done that, and then be willing to go out a little bit and explore what's out there. To me, I say curiosity is the cure. You can live in fear or you can be curious. We know there's a lot of uncertainty coming into 2024. If you're a curious person, it's super exciting. I don't know what I'm going to find, but I think it's probably going to be good, meaning that I will find a successful path. Stockdale paradox, curiosity, good advisory board. Those are some of the takeaways, I think, for people listening to the show that I'd like to leave, that I'm taking into my 2024.
I think like you, Russ, I've been fortunate to have some great mentors and teachers. And I think the way that most people find a mentor is kind of haphazard, kind of by accident. The great news today is you can be a lot more strategic about that. You can seek out coaches, mentors, a peer group, a tribe. Go out and put yourself out there to be able to meet those people. And remember, you have to bring something to the party. There's always a trade-off, and sometimes it's something that you're really good at that you can bring those skills and perspectives, why somebody has a different set of skill set, and they bring that, and it's like a potluck. You know, at a great potluck, everybody brings something that's one of their top recipes, something they really love to the party, and then everything is great. Well, it can go the other way too. So I think that you can be intentional. The great news for real estate investors is whatever you want to do. If it's single family houses, if it's multifamily, if it's retail, if it's construction and development, there's someone that has gone before you that you can learn from. You can learn like you are today from listening to podcasts. Podcasts are available and they're free. You can also read somebody's book. If someone's taken time to distill all those great ideas into an awesome, set of 200 or 300 pages, that is usually money and time well spent. I'm an auditory person, so I like audiobooks and podcasts, and I can remember and retain better that way, but you may be a reader, and Brian Tracy says readers are leaders. Maybe one of the simple steps is to just read more better stuff this year. It's been said that the average person who leaves college in the U.S. reads less than one nonfiction book for the rest of their lives. They read fiction and stories and all that stuff, and you can get lost in that stuff, and there's some benefits to that. I have to discipline myself to read at least one fiction book a year because I, like you, Russ, live for the books that are on strategy and ideas and just all the nonfiction books that are out there and personal development and becoming smarter and better and all those things. That helps your skill set. But a great way to get sharp is to rub yourself against other brains, as Abraham Lincoln said. So we're big fans of getting around folks and being strategic about it. Say you want to go to a great real estate event coming up. If you can't find one, just go to the website at realestateguysradio.com and look at events. We host some events, but we also are asked to speak at lots of other events. And when you go, don't just go to sit in a seat and take notes and learn. You definitely want to do that, but you're going to get a lot more by discussing those ideas. As soon as there's a break, get up, meet a new person and say, hey, what did you think about that last speaker? What were your 5 takeaways? What were the best notes you took? Those conversations tend to do a lot more in furthering our investment career than just reading and listening.
Yeah, and it's notable that every example you gave there was asking a question. I think you went back at the top of that little segment where you said, what do you bring to the party? I think sometimes having been in a lot of these groups, obviously hosting a lot of these groups, I get excited when people come in with their humility. They come in with their sincerity. They're out there genuinely trying to achieve something. They get stuck because they're actually doing something in the real world. They're not dealing in theory. And then they come and they ask questions like, what are you doing? Or can you help me? And that can actually be quite rewarding. We have so many generous people in our lives that give back by making themselves available to answer people's questions because I do think they want to send the ladder of success or the elevator of success back down, pick up a few more people. I think my experience in life has been successful people are generous, they're humble, and they're curious. And I think if you cultivate those personality traits in yourself, you're probably going to end up being like a lot of the successful people we've had the pleasure of being around. And I'm sure one day you'll find yourself, if you're not already doing it, inspiring other people who are coming to you with their genuine, sincere questions and need for help.
Despite all the doom and gloom and negativity and war and garbage in the news, is it possible for 2024 to be your best year yet? We think so. And we've got some additional thoughts when we return. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Real estate investment advice right in your mailbox. Sign up for the free Real Estate Guys newsletter at realestateguysradio.com.
All aboard. Registration is open for the Real Estate Guys 22nd Annual Investor Summit. Imagine spending more than a week with like-minded investors, world-class educators, and real-world professionals. Returning in 2024 is the editor of the Gold newsletter, Brian London, real estate developer Beth Clifford, and the rebel capitalist George Gammon. Back with us in 2024, sales legend and best-selling author Tom Hopkins. And joining us live and in person for his 12th Investor Summit, Ken McElroy. Plus 2 brand new faculty members we can't even mention yet, and a lot more. It all begins June 13th in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Visit investorsummitatc.com to get all the details and reserve your spot. This transformational week is like no conference you've ever attended. Go to investorsummitatc.com and make plans to spend a week with the Real Estate Guys, Ken McElroy, Tom Hopkins, and an all-star faculty on the 22nd Annual Investor Summit at Sea.
Self-storage is an asset class that has stood the test of time. Going into the Great Recession of 2008, self-storage had the least negative impact of any of its commercial real estate peers, and it had explosive growth coming out of that time during the recovery. Fast forward to 2020, and you'll see that same pattern during some of the worst part of the pandemic. Hi, my name is Dave Zook, founder and CEO of The Real Asset Investor. Our operating partners are some of the best in the business, and we've had great success over the last decade buying mom-and-pop operated self-storage facilities and taking them to the next level by forcing value through increasing the square footage, adding climate-controlled units, bringing in our professional management teams, and turning the project into an institutional target. We have self-storage investment opportunities available for accredited investors who are interested in investing in this space for cash flow, tax impact, and huge equity appreciation. Reach out to us today at selfstorage@realestateguysradio.com.
Hi, this is Steve Forbes. You're listening to The Real Estate Guys. Have fun. You'll learn something.
And welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. We're so glad you're here, whether you're a new listener or you've been listening to us for more than 2 decades, almost 3. That's crazy stuff. We're talking about the start of a new year and focusing forward. Lots to be excited about in the new year, and at the same time, being able to put together a plan that gets you on the path to real estate ownership. As you say, Russ, whether you're starting or starting over, it doesn't matter. This is a new time and a clean slate. And I think there's some practical things that we can share. Coming up right away, it's our annual goals retreat. And I would say if you haven't been through the deep process of examining all of your inner workings as a person and then using that information to set meaningful, compelling goals, that could be a great place to start.
Well, compelling is the word. All motion comes out of emotion. It's not just logic. It's not just thinking. We all know what to do, but we don't do it. And we have to unlock our power, and our power comes from our emotions. And when we learn how to find what really turns us on, what really matters to us at a deep, visceral level, then all of a sudden we start taking that effective action that needs to be taken, and we persevere through the inevitable adversity anytime you try to achieve anything. If you roll over and quit every time you face adversity, you probably don't care that much. And so that's a clue that you're probably on the wrong path. Not always, but a lot of times when you give up easily, it's just wasn't that important to you, and you're probably better off going and find something that is important to you, and you can wander around through trial and error, or you can go through a strategic, focused process of asking yourself the right questions. We always say, if you want great answers, you got to ask great questions. Come out 2.5 days later with a little bit of focus. And I'll just say this real quick, because sometimes people are like, oh, you guys just pitch this and pitch that. Necessity is the mother of invention, and some of the best products in the world are created by people who had a problem and went looking in the world and go, wow, the world needs this solution. I'm going to create it, and that's how businesses are born. And so the things that we do here, if you think about it, we talk about goals. Why? Because who wants to be rich and miserable? If you climb the ladder of success and you're on the wrong rooftop, as we say, who cares? You see so many rich people that are absolutely miserable because they didn't do what they wanted to do. They thought money was the answer, and I'll argue that it's not. It makes the answer better. I'm not saying I don't want to have money. It gives you the options to explore, but it isn't the panacea a lot of people think. So why waste time climbing the wrong ladder when you can be focused on the right one? So goals are super important. Investing is a byproduct of freedom, or a path to freedom. So people don't invest because they want to be rich. They want to be rich because they want to be free. So if you think about the shortest path to building up the kind of wealth that can truly set you free. Real estate is fantastic, so we talk about real estate, but we have syndication. And syndication is a great way to tap into other people who are busy doing what they're doing and they need their money to work and they don't have time to manage their money. Well, you can help them. So we have the secrets of successful syndication. We just had one of our guys, it started with us like at the beginning, 2013, I think is when he joined. And so it's 10 years later and he just went over $1 billion equity raised. That isn't assets under management. That's equity raised. $1 billion. It boggles my mind. So this stuff really works. And so that's exciting. So, and the other things that we talk about and promote are really designed to serve that purpose. We got a new one that we're super excited about too.
And it's been a long time coming. We mentioned our good friend Ken McElroy. You've maybe read his book, The ABCs of Real Estate Investing or The ABCs of Property Management or any of his other awesome books. But to us, Kenny isn't just an author who shares his thoughts. He's a guy who's really doing it and has a tremendous real estate portfolio and knowledge. And Kenny and his friends George Gammon and Jason Hartman came together a couple years ago to start a mastermind group. Well, we started our mastermind group back in 2012, and we have just joined forces. So their collective and our inner circle are now the collective inner circle. And as of January 1st, we are locked arms to go create an amazing environment for achievers. People that come together from different walks of life, different types of businesses, different backgrounds to share best practices across the board. And we could not be more excited about it. It's very exclusive. It is a time and money commitment. But to hang around folks like Russ Gray and George Gammon and Jason Hartman and Ken McElroy and Robert Helms, well, you ought to consider it. If you're interested at all in that, just send an email to collective@realestateguysradio.com and you can learn all about the new and improved Collective Inner Circle.
Well, and when you think about the value proposition, if you got a portfolio of, say, $1 million and you only move it 1 or 2 points, that's a big difference. And if you have a $5 million portfolio, so it really just depends. But to me, what's the value of one idea, one relationship, one opportunity? We talk about this all the time. We've had a lot of people say, gosh, you guys get to hang out with these guys. You've learned so much from these guys. How can I do that? And we've had the summit, and we've made the summit available for the longest time where people can spend a week with these guys. But the Collective Inner Circle takes it to the next level. We get together 4 times a year for 1 to 2 days, and just a small, relatively small group of people, all brainstorming. We invite in friends. Last time we did a meeting in the Bahamas, we had Mike Maloney came out, and he had a lot to say about what's going on in the world of precious metals, but also electric vehicles is a real passion to him. So he's a little bit of a futurist. So you never know when you're going to get that next great idea. You know, to get there, you got to put yourself in the right room. So it's something that if you're looking for a way to be in a long-term relationship with a collective group of high achievers, Collective Inner Circle may be just the thing you're looking for.
The big message this week is that 2024 doesn't have to be a carbon copy of 2023. Jim Rohn used to famously say that some people have 20 years of experience, but there's a lot of people that have 1 year of experience just repeated 20 times. If you really do want to be and do more in the new year, then you got to make some changes. We invite you to think about that this week. And what are the changes you can make? How can you become a better investor and stay positive in a sometimes negative world? We're going to devote 2024 to bringing you great ideas, information, and interviews. We've got some excellent shows already lined up. Can't wait for 2024 to reveal itself no matter what happens. Thanks for listening to The Real Estate Guys, whether you're new or you've been listening for all these years. And until next week, go out and make some equity happen.
This episode of the Real Estate Guys radio show is brought to you by Paradigm Life. Powerful cash management strategies using life insurance. Learn more at beyourbank.com. Mid-South Home Buyers, low-cost, turnkey cash flow properties in Memphis, Tennessee. Corporate Direct, asset protection strategies for real estate investors from attorney and Rich Dad advisor Garrett Sutton. Find these and other great companies under the Resources tab at realestateguysradio.com. To learn how you can expose your product or service to the Real Estate Guys audience, Call 888-489-7723 extension 4. That's 888-489-7723 extension 4. Or use the feedback page at realestateguysradio.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week right here on the Real Estate Guys Radio Show.